Tonight,
on this vote, the ayes are 232, the nays are 197. The resolution is adopted.
President Trump twice impeached by Congress. What comes next? And the American economy. What the latest unemployment numbers mean for the country. Plus, coronavirus variants popping up across the country.
The vaccines should be effective against the variant, just as effective as they are against the usual COVID variety we have.
Just how well will the inoculations perform against the new strain of the virus? All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
The Senate prepares for a second impeachment trial for President Trump. Good evening and welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Tara Mergener.
And I'm John Jessup. President Trump making history as the only president to be impeached twice after a majority in the House approved a single article of impeachment for inciting an insurrection. Now it is the Senate's turn to weigh in.
But that won't happen until after the inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden and after President Trump has left office.
We have team coverage tonight on what comes next with CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy for the latest from the president.
But we begin tonight with Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson. Abigail, we saw 10 House Republicans cross the aisle and vote to impeach the president. Is there support for impeachment from any GOP senators?
Well, Tara, as this Senate trial plays out, there's going to be a handful of key Republican senators and one Democrat to watch during the trial. Now, I would say Republicans who've hinted that they might support convicting President Trump in an impeachment trial are Senators Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, Ben Sasse, Pat Toomey, and even Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has hinted that he's open to the idea. And on the other side, Democrat from West Virginia, Senator Joe Manchin, has said that he believes impeachment is ill-advised. Now, most of Republicans, though, in the Senate are taking a line similar to that of Senator Lindsey Graham. Take a look.
To the American people, what good comes from impeaching President Trump after he's out of office? That's an unconstitutional attack on the presidency. It will divide the country. It will incite violence. To my Republican colleagues, let's stand up for the idea that post-presidential impeachments are bad for the presidency, bad for the country, and if we go along with it as Republicans, we will destroy the Republican Party. If we do it as a Senate, I think over time we'll destroy the presidency.
Now, remember, by the end of this Senate trial, President Trump will already have left the White House. So what they're really trying to do here is bar him from running for office ever again.
Abby, what more can you tell us about the Senate trial? What are we learning new tonight?
Well, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he will not reconvene the Senate until January 19th. So that would be the earliest day that they could start this trial. January 20th, as you know, is Inauguration Day. That is also the day that two new senators from Georgia are sworn in, meaning that Democrats will officially have the majority in the Senate on January 20th. And then they have this problem of an impeachment trial, beginning an impeachment trial at the start of Joe Biden's administration when they're trying to confirm his nominations to very important positions. So one idea that's been floated around is having the Senate spend half the day confirming nominations and half the day on the impeachment trial. But we'll see how this all plays out.
It's been a tense 8 days on Capitol Hill, no doubt about it, between the riots and the impeachment. What is the atmosphere like now?
Well, I would say that the best word I have is surreal. When you walk to the Capitol, to any of the buildings surrounding the Capitol, it's like being on a military basis. There are thousands of National Guardsmen in town. There are barriers, fences put up around the Capitol, the surrounding buildings, the Supreme Court. It is crazy. And the staffers, from everyone from just the Capitol Police Force to Senate aides, all of that are just visibly and noticeably shaken. But I actually got to interview Senate Chaplain Barry Black earlier today, and he told me that he thinks that God is going to use the attack last Wednesday for his glory and that God has something amazing planned. And when I asked him where he saw God last Wednesday, he said, where didn't he see God? He was actually with senators for 3 hours, hunkered down as the rioters and were inside the building, and he talked to me about praying over them, ministering to them. And I'll have more from that interview on tomorrow's Faith Nation. But he was very optimistic that God is going to do something amazing following last week's tragedy.
Abby, we look forward to hearing more about that conversation with Senate Chaplain Barry Black. Abigail Robertson covering Capitol Hill for us tonight. Thanks, Abby. Let's now turn to CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. Ben, we've seen and heard very little from the president since the deadly assault at the Capitol, but he did release a new message last night.
John, you're right. We'll get to that message and that video in just a bit, but President Trump has taken no responsibility for the actions that led to his impeachment. In fact, he mentioned those protests that took place on Capitol Hill. He said the words he used were, quote, totally appropriate. But before lawmakers did vote to remove him from office, he called the impeachment a witch hunt and ridiculous. The commander-in-chief has since released a new video after he was impeached, as John was just mentioning. He did not talk about impeachment in that video, but spoke directly to his supporters.
No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement or our great American flag. No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans. If you do any of these things, you are not supporting our movement, you are attacking it, and you are attacking our country. We cannot tolerate it.
Now, without Twitter as a platform, the only chance we have to hear from President Trump is through scheduled events. Every day, I get a guidance from the White House with the president's schedule. Today, he had nothing on the agenda, so no chance to hear from him coming to and from the White House. It's hard to believe, but President Trump has 6 days left in the White House. And as Abigail mentioned in her report, he is on track to become the first former president to stand trial in the Senate. John, Tara.
All right, CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. Here now, David Brody, CBN chief political analyst. David, how much will President Trump's political legacy be overshadowed by the fact that the first lines in history books likely will include the addendum, the only president impeached twice?
Well, John, I don't think we know the answer to that question. I mean, but you're right. That will be one of the first lines in the first paragraph for sure. And so right there, obviously, that seems to be on the surface problematic. Typically, history looks kinder at presidents as they move forward. And look at Ronald Reagan. I remember Ronald Reagan. I don't want to date myself, but look, I remember when Ronald Reagan was vilified by the media that he would go down as one of the worst presidents ever. That was back in the 80s. And now, look, it's Ronald Reagan, and even Democrats are applauding Ronald Reagan. I'm not suggesting Democrats are going to be applauding Donald Trump in 20 to 25 years. But I think history typically has a long view, and I think we'll have to wait for that to be written. And at that point, will you still be hosting Faith Nation when you're 85 or so? We'll see.
In 25 years, 85, I'm not sure.
David, in the past, we've talked a lot about President Trump running again, possibly in 2024. Do you see that still happening?
Possibly, Tara. I mean, if you look at some of the new polling out today, and this is after the riot at the Capitol, you've got over 65% of Republicans saying they had no problem with any of the president's behavior. And that's after the riot. They had no problem. I'm laughing because you think to yourself, wait a minute, how in that world could that be possible? But it's true. And so, look, if his numbers are relatively good after this past week, I would think those numbers are just going to grow and get even better. So, look, I don't think we've seen the last of Donald Trump for sure.
Speaking of that 65%, David, President Trump has maintained strong support from white evangelicals throughout his presidency. Has any of that changed in light of last week?
Well, a couple of things on that, John. First of all, let's wait to see the Pew Research numbers. Let's wait to see some of the polling on that. We haven't really seen definitive polling. I will say this. If from an anecdotal perspective, I put an all call out the other day to my supporters. I say my supporters, excuse me, my Twitter followers. Who am I now? My Twitter followers. And I said, calling all evangelicals, are you sticking by the president? And I got to tell you, I got about 300 or so responses. And I would say 80 to 85% of them we're sticking with him. We're sticking with him. So for what that's worth.
David, in less than a week, Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States. What are you paying attention to or looking for in his first 100 days in office?
Well, a couple of things. I want to see what Joe Biden gets accomplished beyond COVID-19 relief. I mean, I think we're going to see probably some sort of COVID-19 relief package move through the Senate and the House pretty quickly. I think there'll be bipartisan support on that. The question is he going to get an infrastructure bill done? I think I'm looking at that. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at it. I am looking at it. And also Senate confirmations. We'll see. At this point, I think it might be close to smooth sailing on many of those Senate confirmations based on the fact that, A, Democrats control the Senate, but B, he's putting up a lot of establishment center-left people, not too many flamethrowers. So I think it could be smooth sailing.
All right, we shall see. Thank you, David.
You bet.
Thanks, David. Well, now to the economy and some grim news on the job front. Unemployment applications surged last week, hitting 965,000. That's the highest amount of applications since August and up 795,000 just 1 week before. The increase comes as coronavirus cases are on the rise. The Labor Department says an additional 284,000 people applied for unemployment assistance through a special program for gig economy workers. The numbers are nowhere near the peak of the more than 6 million people filing for unemployment last spring, but they're still staggering compared to pre-pandemic applications.
All right, here with us now, Mark Hamrick, Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate. Mark, thanks for joining us. If you add up all the different types of applications, well over 1 million people are seeking unemployment from the government. What do you make of these new Labor Department figures?
They're staggering. This is 43 weeks into the downturn, Tara and John, and I think that not only the duration, but the depth of this human calamity is quite stunning. And so on the one hand, it shouldn't be terribly surprising because the pandemic is the cause of the downturn, but it can still be shocking. And so that's why it's all the more urgent that the president-elect and elected officials in Washington get to work soon on the next round of stimulus legislation to help the economy heal and also help the vaccines get administered. That is what will springboard us to a better place in the economy.
Last week, Mark, we saw a disappointing jobs report. 140,000 positions were cut. And now we have these staggering unemployment applications. Mark, are we heading for more of an economic downturn?
It remains to be seen, John. I think that, first of all, it was helpful that the president signed the legislation into law right after Christmas that continued the unemployment benefits at a heightened level. There were other aspects of that legislation meant to help the economy. And this next round, if it's approved by Congress, will really be sort of next level stuff, the biggest thing since the CARES Act in the earlier part of last year. So I think we can hold on to hope. I don't want to be overly optimistic in the sense of being too optimistic. I want to be level set with my expectations, but I do think the second half of the year can be solid. But don't forget also, 50% of households lost income during this downturn. We have a Bankrate survey that just came out, said only 39% of Americans can pay an emergency expense of $1,000 or more. So those people don't just rush back into the economy and start spending like crazy. But if we get checks out there, people will have money, and that should help.
Hopefully so. A new administration takes over in less than a week. Biden's set to release his stimulus plans in just about an hour now. What can we expect from his administration?
Well, I think that really job one is, responding to the health crisis, and from that, boosting the economy. These two issues are joined at the proverbial hip, and I think we all understand that at this point. It's really not a political issue with respect to Republican and Democrat, because there are people of all political stripes who have been hurt by this. The economy broadly has been hurt, the nation, and so that really is job one.
Mark, do you see an end in sight for the financial hard times experienced by many average Americans? What's it going to take to regain economic stability?
Well, really, the cause of the downturn is the pandemic. But the other part of that, John, is that, in communities all across the country and in sectors of the economy, there certainly have been areas that haven't participated in the strong recovery that we saw that continued up until February. So there's what we call the cyclical aspects of the downturn, and there are structural aspects. And so people want to resolve this crisis but there are long-term issues that stimulus spending that really is associated with infrastructure programs, roads, bridges, highways, broadband, and the like. Those could also help to resolve some of those long-running problems.
All right, Bankerake's Mark Hamrick looking ever so dapper, rocking the vest. Thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, the latest on the coronavirus crisis in America. Faith Nation will be right back after this.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Welcome back. The White House Coronavirus Task Force reports that the virus is in full resurgence across all U.S. metropolitan areas with a population of more than 500,000 people.
And a sobering statistic, too. Officials say COVID caused more deaths in just the past week than the flu in all of 2020. CBN National Security Correspondent Eric Phillips here now with more on that growing threat.
Well, Tara and John, adding to those already frightening headlines is this. New strains of the virus have been popping up in some states, more contagious strains than the original COVID-19. Now, here's the good news. Vaccines have been found to be effective in taking on these new mutations, and a new single-dose vaccine is now emerging.
The stats are alarming. Some hospitals are at the breaking point. More than 4,300 COVID-related deaths reported Tuesday. That means roughly one American dying from the virus every 20 seconds.
Once you get to a certain point and it's hard to breathe, it's real scary.
The encouraging news, the sluggish vaccine rollout is slowly ramping up, with mass vaccination sites opening up, including New York's Yankee Stadium and Disneyland.
Today, for many people getting vaccinated, it is truly the happiest place on earth.
But as distribution increases, so does the number of cases, including new strains of the virus not related to international travel, identified in Columbus, Ohio, Wisconsin, and elsewhere.
We don't have any evidence that it causes people to be sicker or to be more likely to die. But what we do see from the epidemiology data is that it spreads quicker. So it's more contagious or more transmissible.
Fortunately, the new strains appear responsive to vaccines currently on the market. The growing question, however, how long will those supplies last?
We will run out of vaccine at some point next week unless we get a major new resupply.
A third vaccine is headed toward the market. Johnson & Johnson expects results from phase 3 trials in 2 weeks or so. If proven to be safe and effective, the single-dose vaccine could receive emergency authorization by mid-February, with millions of doses ready to go.
That is good news because many, many more Americans need to be vaccinated. According to the numbers right now, about 10.3 million Americans have been partially vaccinated. Now, when you consider that, listen to this, that's just 10% of the prioritized population. In other words, those who are expected to get it first. But it's only 3% of the entire country. So, Tara and John, we certainly have a long way to go.
All right. Thank you, Eric. It certainly seems so. Well, U.S. relations with Israel flourished under President Trump. Will the new administration change that? That story next.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world-class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians in
Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Early spring, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that is when most everyone in Israel will have received the coronavirus vaccine. Israel is home to a little more than 9 million people, and so far about 21% of residents have gotten at least one of 2 vaccine shots since it became available there on December 20th. Israel leads the world in vaccinations per capita.
Under the incoming Biden administration, few doubt that U.S.-Israeli relations will take a turn.
As CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports, Israel's prime minister just made a bold move that could further complicate things for the incoming president.
The move in question, Prime Minister Netanyahu's authorization to build hundreds of housing units in Judea and Samaria.
It's important to understand that now we are entering a more difficult time with President Biden, who will soon be coming into office. So Netanyahu is trying to take advantage of the moment before Biden takes office to create a few facts on the ground.
Netanyahu has his own political concerns as well, with Israel facing another election in March.
One way of getting support from the right-wing voters is by announcing there's going to be new building in Judea and Samaria.
Reclaimed during the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel considers Judea and Samaria its biblical heartland, promised to the Jewish people by God. Palestinians in much of the world call it the West Bank, view it as occupied territory, and want to see it become part of a Palestinian state. David Rubin, former Shiloh mayor and author of Trump and the Jews, said Trump has been very good for Israel.
President Trump has been the best president in the history of United States-Israel relations.
Among his accomplishments are recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem.
That's a fait accompli. Biden's not going to go back on that. Then the recognition that the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria are not illegal, which is a big change from what Obama, Bush, Clinton, what they all were saying before that.
Palestinians were angered by many things Trump did, including his Jerusalem moves, defunding of the UN body responsible for Palestinian refugees, and the Abraham Accords between Israel and 4 Arab states. While Biden is considered to be a friend of Israel, he is also expected to be more sympathetic toward the Palestinians. Meanwhile, the foreign ministers of Germany, France, and Jordan met in Egypt. They released a statement urging the resumption of credible negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians and reaffirmed their support for a 2-state solution. So for Israel, the heat is on. Some fear the favor Israel had with Washington during the last 4 years is likely to be replaced by pressure the Jewish state felt before Trump took office. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Well, finally tonight, 10 months after the lockdowns and stay-at-home orders during the first few months of the pandemic confined people, Tara, to their houses. And now we're seeing the consequences of all that time at home playing out at hospitals across the country.
That's right. It's a coronavirus baby boom.
So we're expecting 30% more people to have a baby this year than they did last year at our hospital. And then by March, it's 70% more.
Dr. Julia Kearney attributes that big jump to quarantines, of course. She says once parents figured out they'd be stuck at home for a while, they decided it was a good time to bring a baby home.
Oh, baby. Some cute ones, too. Well, thank you so much for watching Faith Nation.
Baby indeed. See you tomorrow.